So often in life we are told to try harder, to do more, to prove ourselves to the world. But what if I told you that sometimes true strength comes not from holding on, but from letting go? Tonight, I want to share something deeply personal, something that took me years to truly understand. That the less you care about what doesn't truly matter, the happier, freer, and more powerful you become. I invite you, just for the next few minutes, to set aside your distractions, your doubts, and the voices that tell you who you should be. Listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart, because this isn't just another speech about success or ambition. This is about finding the courage to let go of the weight you were never meant to carry, and finally to breathe, to live, and to love your life fully and unapologetically. Stay with me until the end, because together we'll uncover something that could truly change the way you see yourself and the world around you. And I promise you this, when you embrace this truth, you won't just feel lighter. You'll discover a happiness that no one can take away from you. Absolutely. Here's an expanded 800-word segment on key point 1, letting go of external validation, written in the seamless, reflective, motivational style you asked for, delivered as if Ivanka Trump is giving the speech. Without mentioning her name, when I think about what truly keeps so many of us from being genuinely happy, I realize it often comes down to this quiet, relentless need to be seen, approved of, and praised by everyone around us. We spend so much of our energy chasing acceptance, sometimes without even realizing how deeply it shapes our choices, our words, and even our dreams. It becomes a habit so ingrained that we forget to ask ourselves a very simple but powerful question. Whose approval really matters? From the time we're young, we're taught to be polite, to fit in, to be liked. And while there's nothing wrong with kindness or respect, it becomes dangerous when it turns into a life lived entirely for someone else's applause. Imagine all the times you held back from speaking your truth just because you feared someone might disagree, or the moments you kept your dreams small, afraid of being laughed at or labeled unrealistic. Think about how many mornings you woke up not asking what you wanted, but what would make you look good in someone else's eyes. It's exhausting, isn't it? The truth is, no matter how carefully we shape our image, someone will always criticize, misunderstand, or judge us. That's just human nature. And trying to win over every single person is like trying to hold back the ocean with your hands. Impossible, frustrating, and destined to leave you feeling powerless. What I've learned is that real freedom and real happiness begins when you stop asking, "Oh, what will they think?" and start asking, "What do I truly believe?" There is incredible strength in deciding to live life on your terms without constantly editing yourself for the sake of applause you might never get. And let's be honest, the applause rarely lasts. People move on, opinions change, trends shift. If your self-worth is built on that shaky ground, you'll forever feel unsettled, anxious, and hungry for the next round of validation. I've seen it in so many people. The brightest, most talented souls dimming their own light to avoid criticism, or bending so far to please others that they lose sight of who they really are. It's heartbreaking because in trying to become who everyone else wants us to be, we forget the person we were meant to become. But the beautiful thing is, it doesn't have to stay that way. You can decide right now to stop living for the world's approval and start living for your own peace of mind. It doesn't mean you stop caring about people altogether. It simply means you value your own truth enough to let it lead the way. When you truly let go of external validation, something remarkable happens. You find the courage to speak more honestly, love more deeply, and fail more boldly, because you're no longer terrified of what others might whisper behind your back. And yes, there will be people who won't understand you. But that's okay, because you'll have something so much more important, a life that feels real, not rehearsed. Think about how much energy we waste trying to look perfect, sound perfect, or prove we're enough. Imagine if we invested even half of that energy into doing what genuinely excites us, or nurturing relationships that make us feel alive instead of anxious. Life becomes lighter, richer, and more authentic. And this shift doesn't just change how you feel about yourself. It changes the way others experience you too. People are drawn to those who are unapologetically themselves. There's a quiet magnetism in someone who doesn't chase approval because they radiate calm confidence. And ironically, when you stop needing everyone to like you, The right people, the ones who truly see and respect you, will find their way into your life. It's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. About trusting that your worth isn't something other people give you. It's something you claim for yourself. And once you truly see that, criticism loses its sting, praise loses its grip, and you can finally breathe. So ask yourself, what could your life look like if you stopped caring so much about winning over people who don't even walk your path? What dreams could you pursue? What truths could you speak? Who could you become? Letting go of external validation doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, a daily choice to check in with yourself and ask, is this really what I want? Or is it what I think they expect? And little by little, you discover the incredible lightness of living for your own values, your own peace, and your own joy. Because at the end of the day, it's not the approval of strangers that will comfort you when you're alone with your thoughts. It's the quiet knowledge that you stayed true to yourself, even when it wasn't easy, even when no one else clapped. Ugh. And that, more than anything, is what makes a life worth living. So let's begin there, by letting go of the weight we were never meant to carry, and finally allowing ourselves to feel the happiness that's been waiting for us all along. We spend so much of our lives tangled up in worry. Worry about the future, worry about the past, worry about things so far beyond our reach that we lose sight of what is right in front of us. It's almost as if we've been taught to hold the entire world on our shoulders, believing it's somehow our duty to keep every piece in place. But what if true peace comes not from trying to control everything, but from learning to release the things we simply can't? For the longest time, I struggled with this myself. I thought that if I planned well enough, worked hard enough, or worried long enough, I could force the outcome I wanted. And for a while, it felt productive, like my worrying was proof of how deeply I cared. But all it really did was drain my energy and cloud my mind. Because no matter how desperately we try, there are forces in this life that are simply bigger than us. The opinions of others, unexpected setbacks, the timing of opportunities, or the choices made by people we love. And when we spend every waking moment fighting what we can't control, we rob ourselves of the clarity and calm we need to face what we actually can. Think about it. How many sleepless nights have we spent replaying conversations we can't change? How many joyful moments have we missed because we were too busy predicting the worst? It's human to worry. It's human to want certainty. But there comes a point where holding on becomes more painful than letting go. The irony is, the more tightly we try to grip life, the more it slips through our fingers. But when we loosen that grip, when we breathe, step back, and trust that we'll find a way through, life starts to flow again. We can't stop challenges from coming, but we can choose how we meet them. We can't control what others say, but we can decide what we allow to shape us. And we can't control the past, but we can choose the story we tell ourselves about it today. When we let go of obsessing over the uncontrollable, we make space for something powerful. Presence. Suddenly, we can actually hear the laughter in the room instead of replaying yesterday's mistakes. We can notice the beauty in small, ordinary moments instead of worrying about tomorrow's unknowns. And in that space of presence, we find gratitude, a kind of quiet strength that steadies us no matter what life brings. I know this isn't easy. We live in a world that constantly tells us to anticipate, to prepare for the worst, to see vulnerability as weakness. But vulnerability is not weakness, it's openness. And when we open ourselves to life as it is rather than as we wish it to be, we discover resilience we didn't know we had. We discover that even when things don't go our way, we're still standing. Even when we stumble, we can rise again. There's something liberating about saying, this is out of my hands, and that's okay. It doesn't mean we stop caring or give up trying. It means we focus our effort where it matters most, on our thoughts, our choices, and our response to what life delivers. Because that is the true source of our power, not in shaping every outcome, but in shaping the way we walk through every outcome. I've seen people carry burdens for years. Guilt over choices they can't undo, anger at people who never offered an apology, fear of futures that may never even arrive. And in holding on so tightly, they miss the very life they're trying so hard to protect. But when they finally release that need to control everything, it's like watching someone take their first deep breath in years. Their posture softens, their laughter returns, and you can see it in their eyes. They're finally living, not just surviving. Imagine what could shift in your own life if you chose, today, to let go of just one thing beyond your control. Maybe it's a grudge you've held far too long, or the need for everyone to agree with you, or the fear of an outcome you can't predict. Imagine the space that would open up inside you, the lightness you might feel, the peace that could settle in your heart. This isn't about denying reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about accepting that some chapters will unfold in ways we never expected, and that doesn't mean we failed. It simply means we're human. And being human means learning, adapting, and finding meaning even in moments we didn't choose. When we finally stop fighting what we can't control, something beautiful happens. We start to truly see what we can influence. Our compassion, our patience, our courage, our willingness to keep showing up, even after disappointment. And in that space, we begin to create a life not built on fear or force, but on trust. Trust in ourselves in the journey, and in the simple truth that sometimes letting go is the bravest thing we can do. So, let's take that step together. Let's choose today to release what weighs us down and hold close what lifts us up. Because when we stop trying to control the uncontrollable, we make room for peace, for joy, and for a kind of quiet happiness that no storm can ever take away. There's this deeply rooted belief that caring less means becoming cold, selfish, or indifferent. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Caring less isn't about shutting your heart. It's about opening it more wisely. It's about redirecting the care you so freely give to things and people that drain you, and instead investing it where it truly matters. Your own well-being, your deepest values, and the relationships and pursuits that nourish your spirit rather than exhaust it. I've learned that you can pour endless energy into pleasing others, chasing perfection, or proving your worth, and still feel empty at the end of the day. But when you decide to care more about what strengthens your mind and soul, a quiet transformation happens. Suddenly, you wake up with clarity instead of dread. You begin to hear your own voice beneath the noise. And you remember that you were never meant to live your entire life according to someone else's expectations. It's remarkable how often we place ourselves last on our own list. We sacrifice rest for work, we stay silent to avoid conflict, and we keep toxic people in our lives just to avoid being labeled unkind. But the cost of that sacrifice is high. Anxiety, resentment, and a life that feels increasingly foreign to who we really are. Prioritizing your well-being isn't a selfish act, it's an act of responsibility. Because when your spirit is nourished, you show up more present, more grounded, and more compassionate to those around you. There's an undeniable freedom in acknowledging that you can't fix everyone, you can't heal every hurt, and you can't live your life trying to meet expectations that keep shifting. You can love deeply and still set boundaries. You can care about others and still choose to rest when your body or mind is begging for it. The world might tell you to keep pushing through exhaustion, but real strength sometimes looks like stepping back, breathing, and remembering that you are human too. It's about asking yourself, what truly matters to me? Is it another restless night worrying about what they'll say? Or is it the quiet joy of waking up rested and centered? Is it the endless chase for approval? Or is it the satisfaction of knowing I lived this day according to my own values, even if no one clapped? When you start choosing what aligns with your peace over what pleases the crowd, your life begins to reflect who you truly are, rather than who you feel pressured to be. And this choice doesn't mean you'll never face criticism or disappointment. You will. But the difference is it won't shatter you, because your worth won't hinge on anyone else's opinion. When your care is rooted in your own well-being, setbacks become lessons rather than proof of failure. And the voices that once echoed so loudly around you lose their power, because you've chosen to listen to something deeper and truer within yourself. It might feel uncomfortable at first, because most of us were taught to put everyone else first, to always say yes, and to never risk seeming selfish. But over time, you realize that caring less about what drains you actually allows you to care more about what fulfills you. Your energy is no longer scattered across countless worries and fears. Instead, it's gathered steady and focused on what matters most: your growth, your peace, and the people and dreams that light you up from within. Imagine the life that becomes possible when you stop wasting energy trying to keep everyone happy. You find yourself drawn to moments of stillness, Moments where you feel whole and unhurried. You start showing up in your relationships not out of obligation, but out of genuine love and presence. And you discover that your happiness doesn't come from being everything to everyone, but from being fully, unapologetically yourself. This isn't about living carelessly, it's about living consciously. About choosing again and again to invest your limited time and emotional energy where it makes the deepest impact, not in proving your worth, but in living it. And when you do this, you naturally draw in people and experiences that resonate with your true self, rather than the mask you used to wear to please others. And yes, there will be days when doubt creeps in, when the old habit of overcaring whispers that you're not doing enough. But each time you return to yourself, each time you choose peace over perfection, you strengthen a quieter, steadier kind of confidence. One that doesn't need constant reassurance because it comes from within. So let yourself care deeply, but care wisely. Care for your dreams, your health, your laughter, and the people who see you and love you as you truly are. Because when you place your own well-being at the center of your choices, you not only find happiness, you create a life that feels meaningful, balanced, and beautifully your own. And in the end, that quiet joy of living in alignment with your own values is far richer and more lasting than any fleeting approval you could ever chase. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught that life has to be complicated to be meaningful. That we need to chase after bigger titles, higher numbers, and constant busyness to prove we matter. But if you've ever paused long enough to really feel your own heartbeat, you'll know there's another truth quietly waiting beneath the noise. The less you clutter your mind and your life with what doesn't serve you, the freer, and ultimately the happier you become. We live in a world that measures worth by accumulation, of things, of followers, of achievements neatly listed on a resume. And yet, have you ever noticed that some of the people who seem to have it all are also the most restless, anxious, and perpetually unsatisfied? It isn't because they're flawed, it's because the pursuit itself is flawed. When you build your sense of value on endless comparison and external measures, happiness always stays just out of reach, like a horizon that keeps moving as you walk. Real freedom starts when you dare to step away from that treadmill and ask yourself, what actually makes my heart feel light? Sometimes it's astonishingly simple. An unhurried morning coffee, laughter with someone you love, time spent creating instead of performing. The more you choose these moments over things that only look impressive on the outside, the more grounded and alive you feel on the inside. And that's what it means to embrace simplicity, not in a shallow sense of minimalism, but in living with intention. Choosing to release obligations that exist only to meet other people's expectations. Choosing honesty over appearances, even if it means admitting, this isn't what I truly want. It's recognizing that happiness isn't hidden in the next milestone or purchase, but in the quiet courage to say, this is enough. I am enough. When you start letting go of unnecessary complexity, something unexpected happens. You find your true voice. A voice that isn't echoing what the world wants to hear, but speaking from a place of real conviction and clarity. And with that voice comes a kind of peace, a relief from the constant mental noise that says you should always do more, be more, want more. It doesn't mean you stop dreaming or working hard. It means you stop hustling for a version of success that was never yours to begin with. You may discover that your definition of success is smaller, quieter, and infinitely more personal. And that's perfectly okay. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what the world sees. It's about how your life feels when you're living it. Think about how much energy we waste every day trying to keep up appearances, curating our words, polishing our image, measuring our worth against someone else's highlight reel. Highlight reel. When you let go of that, you not only reclaim your time, you reclaim your soul. Suddenly, you can channel that energy into what truly lights you up, building something meaningful, connecting deeply with the people you love, or simply being present enough to notice the beauty in ordinary moments. And here's the quiet truth. People are drawn not to those who seem to have everything, but to those who radiate peace, contentment, and authenticity. When you stop trying to impress everyone, you start inspiring them. Because authenticity has a power that no carefully curated image can ever match. You might worry that by simplifying, you'll miss out on something important. But what you actually lose is the constant anxiety of trying to keep up, and what you gain is priceless. Space to breathe, think, and live in a way that feels honest. Your days become less crowded, your mind less tangled, and your heart lighter than you thought possible. It's not always easy to walk away from what the world insists you need. It takes courage to say, no, thank you to things others chase without question. But in doing so, you create room for what truly belongs in your life. And slowly you discover that happiness isn't something distant you have to earn. It's something that quietly rises within you when you stop standing in your own way. The freedom that comes from embracing simplicity isn't loud or dramatic. It's soft, steady, and deeply personal. It looks like sleeping peacefully because your choices reflect your truth. It feels like starting your day with gratitude instead of dread. It sounds like your own laughter, unforced and unfiltered. And ultimately, it means that instead of measuring your life by what it looks like to others, you start measuring it by what it feels like to you. And what could be more powerful than that? Because when you release the weight of other people's expectations, the endless race to appear successful, and the need to always be more, you discover a happiness that doesn't depend on applause, achievement, or approval. A happiness that grows quietly in the life you choose, simply because it's yours. And in that simplicity, you don't just find freedom, you find the truest, deepest kind of joy.